The Stone Zone is available in podcast form everywhere you can get podcasts. You can subscribe on your favorite app at stonezone.com/podcast.
The Stone Zone with legendary Republican strategist and political icon and pundit Roger Stone. Stone has served as a senior campaign aide to 3 Republican presidents. He is a New York Times best-selling author and a longtime friend and advisor of President Donald Trump. As an outspoken libertarian, Stone has appeared on thousands of broadcasts, spoken at countless venues, and lectured before the prestigious Oxford Political Union and the Cambridge Union Society. Due to his 4+ decades in the political and cultural arena, Stone has become a pop culture icon. And now, here's your host, Roger Stone.
Welcome, I'm Roger Stone, and yes, you are back in the Stone Zone. Well, day 2 of the trial of President Donald Trump, unprecedented, the first time a former president has faced a criminal action, or even for that matter, a civil action in the history of the country. That's because this isn't a prosecution, this is election interference. Here to join me to talk about this and a great deal more is my co-host from slingshot.news, Troy Smith. Troy, welcome back in to the Stone Zone.
Well, Roger, it's an honor to be here as always. And, heading into this trial, we're really looking at a historic moment. You've seen more politics in this country than most people. And I think you, better than anybody, can speak to the historic importance of this trial.
Really looking forward to it. Joining us on today's show is Derek Evans. He is a Republican candidate for Congress in West Virginia. He is a veteran of January 6th. He is an America First candidate. We're going to be talking to him about his insurgent congressional campaign. But before he joins us, Jonathan Turley, who, to my mind, is one of the more brilliant legal minds in the country. He's not a conservative. He's not a Republican. He's not a Trump supporter. Neither is he a supporter of Biden, although I believe he's probably a Democrat. Here was his take on the opening day of Trump's trial.
In this case, Trump is right. I mean, this is an embarrassment. I mean, the fact that we are actually talking about this case being presented in a New York courtroom leaves me in utter disbelief. I mean, the arguments today did, in fact, capture all the problems here. You know, you had this misdemeanor under state law that had run out. This is going back to related to the 2016 election. And they zapped it back into life by alleging that there was a campaign finance violation under the federal laws that doesn't exist. The Department of Justice doesn't view it this way.
This is, I think, an excellent starting point. The point here, of course, is that there is no crime. The parallels between this trial in New York and my trial in D.C. Really keeping me up at night. First, you have the makeup of the jury. Yesterday, a juror was dismissed when they finally broke down and admitted that they couldn't be objective, that they worked in the same building with Michael Cohen, and that they were their family was close to former Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey. I suspect you have numerous jurors here who have attacked President Donald Trump on their social media postings. But then, of course, they say during jury selection, of course I can be objective. This is a hanging jury. It's a Manhattan jury. I've been there. You might recall that in my case, the jury forewoman, whose name was Tomika Hart, I didn't out her, she outed herself. She'd been a Democrat member, a Democrat candidate for Congress in Tennessee. She was a protege of left-wing political consultant and empty talking head Donna Brazile. She had attacked me and President Trump on both Twitter and Facebook in the year before I was arrested. She specifically attacked me regarding the very case in which she was later selected as a juror Yet she said during jury selection she wasn't really following the Russian collusion prosecution. She wasn't all that aware of who I was. In other words, she lied to get on the jury. Then she kept her social media settings on a private setting during the trial, and then tried only to quietly delete them afterwards. Fortunately, the investigative journalist Mike Cernovich was able to go using the Wayback Machine, was able to go back and find her vicious attacks on Trump. I remember one specifically, Troy. She said that all supporters of Donald Trump are racists. That would mean, of course, that she thought I was a racist. She should never have been sitting on my jury. Then there was the other juror, gave an extensive interview to the Washington Post after my trial, said he was absolutely correct that I had been convicted, although I think even he'd have a hard time explaining my crime since there was none. But he worked for Jill Stein and had been an organizer for the Green Party. Doesn't exactly sound to me like he had no political points of view. Now, my lawyers moved for a change of venue. We realized DC was not a location or a jurisdiction where we could possibly get an honest or fair trial. That was denied. Trump has now moved for a change of venue. That will be denied. I moved that the judge recuse herself after she praised the jury for their excellent deliberations, and in light of the revelations regarding the corruption of the jury forewoman. She said that was a cheap publicity stunt. It was interesting that throughout my trial, the judge's conduct was reprehensible. She would roll her eyes so the jury could see her whenever one of my lawyers was talking. She accused my lawyers of being too New York. I think that's an ethnic slur. All of my lawyers were Jewish. She said they were too New York. I'm not sure what that means. She didn't mind it when the government was aggressive, and they were incredibly aggressive. But when my lawyers were the slightest bit aggressive, which wasn't very often in the trial, she would admonish them to stop their courtroom theatrics. When you file a good faith motion for recusal, she has every right to decline it, but to call it a publicity stunt does not comport with the facts. Uh, it's also interesting that the limits that they're seeking to put on Donald Trump in his defense. In my case, it was a simple question of the underlying premise of the charges against me. They were that the Russian intelligence had hacked the Democratic National Committee, had conducted an online hack, and that information had somehow made its way to WikiLeaks. They never actually accused me of possessing it or sending it. They tried to imply that I knew about it in advance. And of course, from 2 points of view, I did. One, Julian Assange himself had said repeatedly that he had devastating information on Hillary and the Democrats and that he would drop it in October. And then Randy Credico, a kind of a gadfly New York radio talk show host and impressionist who used to be a friend of mine, told me that he heard that whatever it was that Assange has was devastating, that it would be the end of Hillary's campaign. When I asked him how he knew that, he said he knew it from a woman lawyer who was a friend of his who worked for Assange. And don't ask any more questions, he said about it. All of this in writing, all of this provided to the special counsel. Credico denied on the stand that he had heard anything from a lawyer connected to Assange, and the woman lawyer in question, she perjured herself as well, saying she had never discussed the matter with Credico. But it is I throw these things out only so people can see exactly what Donald Trump is about to go through. Because you see, Troy, I think I was the template. I was the prototype. I was the dry run for this egregious action against President Trump.
Well, exactly, Roger. And in your case, I think it's important to point out, and I wanted to ask you about this because you were gagged, obviously. They did everything to try to stop you from speaking. And I wanted to ask you, they've kind of been unsuccessful in doing that in some cases with Trump. Um, the idea of gagging a presidential candidate, that is just beyond. I mean, how far out of line is that, Roger? That is just historically, that's just unbelievable that they would actually try to gag a presidential candidate.
The Constitution actually holds that political speech is among the most protected speech we have. But we've seen the same trajectory here. In my case, I was gagged shortly after my lawyers forced the FBI to admit that they had never actually inspected the computer servers at the Democratic National Committee, and they had left the representations regarding a Russian hack to a third party called CrowdStrikes. At that point, it became crucial that I be silenced. The judge silenced me, but not only gagged me, gagged every member of my family. That would be my wife, my son, my daughter, my grandchildren. Also gagged my supporters, which seems to me to be overly broad. My supporters, in this case, would have counted Tucker Carlson, who talked about my case quite a bit on the air, as well as Alex Jones. Now, the judge's reasoning, which is without basis, is that if I were allowed to speak, if I were allowed to give media interviews, or more precisely, if I were allowed to post on my then relatively meager social media, that I might taint the DC jury. What about the Washington Post and CNN, probably the two most popular and dominant news outlets in DC, maybe MSNBC as well? How about their constant false attacks on me? Did they in any way perhaps taint the jury pool? But you see, that doesn't matter. You see the same thing going on in New York. Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels are allowed to publicly bash Donald Trump, but Donald Trump is not allowed to publicly respond. So I think it is egregious, but look at what they did in my case. I immediately challenged the constitutionality of the gag order in my case. I filed a writ of mandamus with the DC Appeals Court. The Appeals Court sat on that for 16 months doing nothing, all the while I was sustaining damage from MSNBC and CNN. I was called a Russian spy. I was called a Russian traitor. I was called a Russian intelligence asset. Of course, no evidence to that effect was ever presented. Beyond that, I was told that they insisted I was the cutout between WikiLeaks and the Russians, or WikiLeaks and the Trump campaign. They implied this over and over again. That wasn't true either. They produced no evidence of that. But then, just before the trial, the Court of Appeals ruled that my motion, which they had sat on for 16 months, was not ripe for a decision because I had not yet first asked the trial judge, Judge Amy Berman Jackson, to remove the gag order that she herself had placed on me, which of course she would never have done. So Trump has challenged these gag orders. The good news is that as a former president of the United States, it gets more attention. I think he will get a higher priority. The gag orders are unconstitutional. They have never been adequately challenged. The idea that Trump can't speak because it would taint the jury pool. The jury pool is now already selected and presumably sequestered. So I don't see why Trump can't speak. But remember, in my case, this is the worst part. I was gagged before my trial to make it difficult for me to raise money for my legal defense fund, which is at stonedefensefund.com. I was gagged during the trial, so I could not respond in real time to the various misrepresentations, particularly in the New York Times. They obviously didn't cover the same trial that I was at. And then lastly, I was gagged after being convicted and prior to sentencing. In fact, the gag would have remained in place after sentencing, right up until the time that I had to turn myself over to a dank Georgia prison, where I guess I was supposed to die. So obviously, people are very afraid of what I have to say. This is an outrageous misprison of the law, perversion of the law, but it's exactly what President Trump is now going through.
Well, and last question on this, Roger, because I think most people look at this and they say, well, you went through yours in DC, and we know what the jury was like there. President Trump's going through his situation in New York. Obviously, we know what the situation is there. What do you think should happen? Because it seems to me that if they move the trial to a red state, all the Democrats would immediately say, oh, it's not fair because these are Trump supporters. Yet when it's a jury full of people who are even like leaving the jury because they have conflicts of interest, and like you're talking about, they worked or had a close relationship with Chris Christie. I mean, one of the most anti-Trump people that challenged him in the primary. How does that person get on the jury? And what do you think should be done here? Should they move the trial? If they did, you obviously said that won't happen. Is there a way out of this?
Well, what they should do, of course, is to dismiss the charges. There is no underlying crime here. Jonathan Turley, in that opening bite, said it better than anyone I've seen, which is to say there is no crime here. In other words, they are claiming that Trump covered up a federal crime, yet the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York and the Federal Election Commission both investigated these transactions and determined no crime. The other thing I find interesting, Troy, is that the man who gave the opening statement yesterday was not a local New York prosecutor. It was a man named Michael D'Angelo. This gentleman is out of the Biden Justice Department. So in other words, he worked at the Biden DOJ. Now suddenly he works at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and he was the lead prosecutor with yesterday's opening statement. Does that mean that there was nobody in the district attorney's office competent to make that argument? And also it raises the serious question about whether there is a racketeering conspiracy that involves DA Alvin Bragg, whether it involves Attorney General Letitia James, whether it involves Mr. D'Angelo, whether it involves Fannie Wills in Atlanta, whether it involves Jack Smith, whether it involves Nathan Wade, because every one of these people has visited the White House. Every one of them has met with the White House legal counsel. Every one of them has met with the Department of Justice. So what you see here is a coordinating racketeering conspiracy to prosecute Donald Trump. Now you might ask, why don't Trump's lawyers bring an action, bring a civil RICO action? I think the answer for that is that the last time the president filed an excellent civil lawsuit in Miami, which was a very detailed and well put together compendium of documentation of the Russian collusion hoax and the abuse of power, including the falsity of the Steele dossier, the lack of any evidence that there really was a hack at the DNC, the various false claims regarding the Alpha Bank, which was a Russian bank that allegedly, but did not, in fact, have a computer terminal in Trump Tower. When that was all put together and filed in court in Miami, the judge, a Clinton appointee, not only dismissed the case, but then sanctioned all of the lawyers who filed it, seeking to fine them millions of dollars for simply availing themselves to the court process. So you can see why the president's lawyers are hesitant to file what, in fact, could be an exceedingly strong civil RICO case. I'm not a lawyer, but lawyers I do respect say this should be filed in Florida, filed as a related case to the documents case in front of Judge Cannon. What do you think of that idea?
Well, I think, Roger, when you're looking at what's going on in the Trump trial, I mean, you're exactly right. They should just take the entire thing and they should throw it out. But the idea that we are even going through this process, I think for most Americans, it just goes right over their head. It's a lot of procedural BS. And the idea that the president could launch a lawsuit in Miami that is, clean, that's talking about the Russian collusion hoax, which I would add, Roger, the Mueller investigation yielded no evidence of Russian collusion, and the Durham report actually revealed that the entire thing was a setup on behalf of the intelligence agencies who, by the Durham report's own admission, were working in a political aspect to have an effect on the election. So the idea that they would put something forward in Miami, that it would be rejected regarding the Russian collusion hoax, which has now been confirmed, a complete hoax by the Durham report and others, it speaks to the nature of what they're doing right now, Roger. You know, it's hey, we're going to attack you every way we can in every jurisdiction that we can. And even if you respond, even if it's truthful, even if our own people in the Justice Department confirm what you say, it doesn't matter. And I think that's exactly why it took 5 years to get the Durham report, because they knew that in the midst of all of this going on, they needed the lie, the myth of Russian collusion hoax in order to incite many Americans against the former president. And that's why it took so long to release this report. It's why Trump's any response that he files gets laughed at. And you're saying they sanctioned every lawyer involved. I mean, this is a level of persecution, political witch hunt that we haven't seen, I don't think, in this country ever. And I think, like I said, most people, they hear these motions and everything, and they say, guys, we have a presidential candidate here. This is what it boils down to in my mind, Roger. You have a presidential candidate that based on the polling that a majority of Americans support. And you have a president, an incumbent, who is the most, if not one of the two most unpopular presidents in the history of the United States. It seems to me the people protecting that presidency, the people that are doing everything in their power to protect Joe Biden and his administration, they are willing to really violate any aspect of the law. They're willing to pervert any aspect of the law in order to achieve what they want, which is protecting Biden, and which is protecting really what Biden represents, which is the political aspirations of the elites in this country that have bankrupted us, sold our jobs. They've allowed fentanyl into the country, killing millions of people. They've allowed drugs into the country, leaving millions of Americans addicted and without hope. Roger, it's a travesty what's happening to Trump. And I think really what I come back to, and if I said, okay, here's your strategy, Trump's strategy all along, I believe, has been to fight injustice. He's been doing that across the board in every single one of these courtrooms. And as long as he is continuing to attack the lies, attack the misinformation to the extent that he can, and that the legal system doesn't tie his hands behind his back, I think that's the important thing here. I think most people would have folded, Roger. I think most people, even in your situation, comparing the two, they're so similar. Most people in your situation or Trump's situation would have folded, but you guys are strong and you believe in fighting for what is true. And if, as long as the president continues to fight, as long as he continues to get back up after they knock him down and they attempt to gag him and lynch him in the media, I think we're going to have a good situation here, because ultimately, Roger, they can't launch lawsuits enough to get people distracted by the fact that their gasoline bill has at least doubled since Biden got into office, or that their grocery bill has at least doubled since Biden got into office, or that their energy bill has doubled, or that their insurance has gone up. They can use these lawfare tactics to try to discredit Trump, attack him, but at the end of the day, it's not the president's the people attacking him legally that are going to be the deciding factor in this election. It's going to be the failures of the Biden administration and people contrasting that with the successes that we had during the first Trump administration.
Very good point. Look, it's interesting that on the left, it doesn't matter how completely discredited, debunked, or completely disproven any of their claims are, they'll always come back and recycle it. For example, Andrew Weissman, the former Mueller prosecutor, Adam Schiff, they continue to insist that Paul Manafort, Donald Trump's campaign manager, gave proprietary campaign polling information to a man named Konstantin Kalemnik, who was most definitely a Russian asset and who passed that information on to Vladimir Putin. There's a couple of problems with that. First of all, if you ask Manafort and pollster Tony Fabrizio, at the time that this polling was allegedly given from Manafort to Kalemnik, there was no proprietary polling. The Trump campaign had not gone into the field yet and taken any of their own surveys. There was public information, but that could be found in the media and on the internet. So it's possible Manafort shared that with Kilimnik. But secondarily, as the independent journalist Matt Taibbi, I think, has pretty definitively proven, this gentleman, Konstantin Kilimnik, was not only not a Russian asset, but he was a U.S. intelligence asset. In fact, he was keeping the American embassy in Kyiv up to date on what was going on in the country. So once again, they recycle the same lie over and over again. Donald Trump Jr. met with a Russian woman lawyer in Trump Tower, and she offered the campaign help, and they accepted the help. I'm paraphrasing the odious Adam Schiff. None of that is true. The woman in question appears to be working for Fusion GPS, the outfit that put together the Steele dossier. She was briefed prior to her meeting with Donald Trump Jr. and others. She was debriefed afterwards. She imparted no information of value. The meeting was a waste of time, and there was nothing illegal or illicit about it. But those are perfect examples of the two instances that are constantly cited as the proof of the Russian collusion in Donald Trump's campaign.
Well,
I think we are. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Roger, we have a quick video, and you're exactly right. There's a two-tiered system when it comes to this stuff, and there's also a two-tiered system when it comes to, I think, race in this country. And this is mainly pushed by the left. They love racial division. They love to, if you're white, basically you're not allowed to do anything. And if you're black, it seems that you get a pass for most things, especially when it comes to, let's just compare two situations, Roger. Jeffrey Epstein and Puff Daddy. Puff Daddy's charged with basically the exact same thing that Jeffrey Epstein is charged with. And yet we see people that were his associates, people that were at his parties, these leftist politicians and musicians and athletes, all these people that were very close with Puff Daddy, posted pictures with him, were at his house, where they allege a lot of this stuff was going on. They've received no consequences. And a prime example of this, Roger, is John Legend, who over the weekend appeared on Jen Psaki's MSNBC show to trash Donald Trump and to say, oh, he hasn't been given the exact same, he's been given more rights than everybody else in his pre-trial stuff. Trump has actually been given, they've actually said this now, Roger, Trump has been given preferential treatment. John Legend has the balls to sit up there and say this on MSNBC when he was friends with Puff Daddy, posted pictures of himself with Puff Daddy at his house, and has yet no one's questioned it. In fact, he's still on The Voice, one of the most popular shows in America. So this guy gets to be friends with a child trafficker. This guy gets to pal around with all the liberals. And no, it's not him that gets preferential treatment. It's Donald Trump. Let's roll that clip of John Legend trashing Donald Trump on MSNBC over the weekend.
Well, he is a part of a two-tier system of justice, but not in the way that he thinks he is. He is getting way more concessions than the average criminal defendant would get. He's getting delays. He's got access to all kinds of lawyers that are filing this and filing that, delaying every trial. And most people don't have access to that kind of lawyering, don't have access to the kind of concessions that the justice system will provide to you if you can afford it.
This is ludicrous, of course. First of all, shall we point out that Donald Trump is being charged with retaining control of classified and top secret records, which I believe under the Presidential Records Act he was most entitled to have. There's a federal court decision by Judge Amy Berman Jackson, who was actually, ironically, the judge in my case, in which she ruled that former President Bill Clinton could do anything with his documents post-presidency that he wanted, including keeping some of them in his sock drawer at home. Joe Biden, on the other hand, according to a special counsel's report, willfully retained classified and top secret documents in violation of the law, but he's being given a pass. He is not being prosecuted because of his age. So is that the two-tiered justice system that Mr. Legend is speaking about? Or, of course, Hillary Clinton, who lied under oath before Congress, James Comey, the FBI director, who lied at least 138 times under oath before Congress regarding material things, CIA Director Brennan, who lied to Congress multiple times, but specifically about his surveillance of a Senate committee that was looking into illegal torture by the CIA under John Brennan, but he was not prosecuted. General James Clapper, he insisted under oath that we had no metadata collection program on American citizens until Edward Snowden revealed that that was a lie, but General Clapper was not prosecuted. I think that is the two-tiered justice system that Mr. Legend speaks of. We're going to go to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, Derek Evans, America First candidate for the Congress in West Virginia, will join us. We'll be right back.
Glutathione, I'm so excited that we have a fantastic delivery system for it, because glutathione is the master detoxifier and master antioxidant. Glutathione's like oxygen, okay? You will die in 3 to 7 minutes if you don't get glutathione.
Wow.
And at 3 to 7 minutes. And we have a way now to get the whole glutathione in your cells in about 90 seconds without using a glutathione IV. It is the most important molecule in your body. Glutathione helps your brain, your liver. It performs 400 functions in your body. So the it will detox every heavy metal, every pesticide, every herbicide. It will detox spike protein from your body. It will detox graphene oxide. And it is the master detoxifier and antioxidant. So glutathione is needed every single day.
Numi.com/house1.
A lot of people are having great success with a weight management program with Bellatrim, but it's just a tool. In terms of ingredients, Chromex or chromium picolinate improves the actions of insulin, so you have better glucose management, and in addition, it promotes fat utilization. Fat utilization, or fat burning, is also a feature of metabolite, which are two botanicals that stimulate a switch called AMP kinase, and so you tend to burn fat, reduce belly fat or visceral fat. Who doesn't want that? Metabolite has the ability to stimulate satiety or reduce those cravings. That's really very, very important. And it does that by raising GLP-1 levels. In addition, we've addressed the microbiome by using prebiotics. Healthier microbiome, better weight management.
Welcome back, folks. If you're just tuning in, I'm Roger Stone, and yes, this is the Stone Zone. I'm here with my sidekick, Troy Smith, the editor-in-chief of Slingshot.news. Joining us now is congressional candidate Derek Evans. He is a January 6th veteran. We're going to roll this television spot as a way of bringing him in.
I'm Derek Evans, and on January 6th, I stood with President Trump to peacefully and patriotically protest a stolen election. Then the same weaponized deep state going after President Trump came to my home, ripped me away from my wife and my 4 young children, and held me hostage as a January 6th political prisoner. But I'm not giving up. I'm running with President Trump to help him drain the swamp once and for all. I'm endorsed by Trump warriors such as Roger Stone, Mike Lindell, General Flynn, and Veterans for Trump. On May 14th, vote MAGA, vote Derek Evans for Congress.
Tranny surgeries, late-term abortions, LGBTQ housing. Carol Miller voted for all of that, plus coal-killing Green New Deal laws, gun-grabbing red flag gun laws targeting veterans, and expanded Medicaid funding for abortion under Obamacare. When Biden weaponized the DOJ against Trump, Carol Miller was silent. Drain the swamp. Fire Carol Miller. Go to corruptcarol.com. Vote MAGA. Vote Derek Evans. May 14th. Vote pro-Trump MAGA patriot Derek Evans.
I'm Derek Evans. I approve this message.
All right, welcome to the Stone Zone, Derek Evans.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on, man. Huge fan and really appreciate it.
I'm very proud to endorse your candidacy, and I thought both those early pieces of media were really excellent in terms of telling people who you are. This is a classic case in which you're challenging Carol Miller, who is a certified rhino. She recently voted for warrantless wiretapping of U.S. citizens through the FISA program. We've already seen the abuses in the program. They were weaponized against Donald Trump. She also voted for billions more for the Ukrainian war. I think I saw her on the floor actually waving a little Ukrainian flag yesterday. It was embarrassing. She is voted for the Green New Deal, which if I were a coal miner or in the energy business in West Virginia, I'd be pretty unhappy about that. She's also favors Medicaid funded abortions. And of course, red flag laws where the government can take away your legally owned firearm if your next door neighbor doesn't like you. So this is a very important race. Derek, tell us, first of all, a little bit about your background. Tell us about your experience on January 6th, and then tell us about your decision to make this race.
Yeah, well, first I want to say that I prefer the term undocumented Democrat. I think that better describes her. So that's what I typically use. But yeah, look, I'm a husband and a father. I'm married to my college sweetheart. We've been together for about 15 years. I've got 4 kids. That's why I'm doing this at the end of the day. I've got 2 girls ages 8 and 6, 2 boys ages 4 and 3. And I worry about the future of this country right now after everything I've went through. My background's in real estate. I've been flipping homes and own rental property, doing a lot of that since about 2016, 2017, somewhere in that range. It's absolutely a passion of mine, and so that's kind of my day job, if you will. But right now, my main focus is saving this country and trying to preserve and defend individual freedom and liberty for my children and future generations in this country. And that, to me, is the most pressing issue that we're dealing with right now.
Well, you have some experience in local government. You were elected to the West Virginia House of Delegates in 2020, becoming the first Republican to win your district, which is an excellent sign for the future. Tell us about your experience of January 6th, because if we don't cover it, people will accuse us of ignoring it.
Yeah, absolutely. So to your point, I was the first Republican to win my district in over 98 years. I won a landslide victory, and I ran on an open, ultra MAGA, America First platform during that time. I was very open about that, and that's why I won in such big numbers. And so when it came time to stand with President Trump on January 6th, think about every single person across the country who is a state representative who ran as a MAGA America First patriot. But when it came time to stand with President Trump against a stolen election on January 6th, I am the only elected legislator in the entire country who had the courage to go put my money where my mouth is, go stand with President Trump and peacefully and patriotically protest the stolen election. And then 2 days later, the same weaponized deep state going after President Trump came to my home, traumatized my family, ripped me away from my wife and my 4 young children, and held me hostage as a January 6th political prisoner. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm lucky compared to so many other my fellow J6 patriots who are still in prison today. They're still arresting people. They're still throwing people in solitary confinement. I did 8 days of solitary confinement for refusing the COVID vaccine. And some of these people have been in solitary confinement for months. It's absolute torture. It's unbelievable. This is what the Biden regime, the illegitimate Biden regime, is doing to the American people right now. And I really want to use my personal experience of what I went through and take that to Congress and hopefully sit on the Weaponization of Government Committee and actually start holding these people accountable and try to prevent this from happening to other people. Because what they did to me, they are going to do it to everyone when they get the opportunity to do so.
I could not agree with that more, given my own experiences. Troy, do you have a question for the next congressman from West Virginia?
Absolutely. Energy such a key issue in West Virginia, and really, there's been no president who has done more for American energy than President Trump. Can you talk about the difference between his policies and the rhinos before him and Carol Miller? How he's really made a stand there in West Virginia? I bet people respect him for that.
Listen, I know that President Trump understands that he's loved in West Virginia based on the votes, but I don't think he truly understands how much he is loved by the people of West Virginia, if that makes sense. I mean, people here absolutely love President Trump because of his policies and because he actually stands up and speaks out for us. I'll say this. Obama started all of this. Everything we're experiencing in this country right now started with a fake birth certificate from Hawaii. We have to remember that. And so Obama, he actually kept his campaign promise, which I wish he wouldn't have, but he came here and said he was going to destroy the coal industry. He did exactly that. We're experiencing Obama's third term right now. On day one, Biden shut down the Keystone Pipeline, which affected us. This is affecting the entire country right now. It's part of the reason inflation is through the roof. Is American energy is being held down right now by all these regulations. I believe that we need to get President Trump back in office for many reasons, but one of those reasons is to unleash American energy, roll back the red tape, roll back the regulations, and get our economy and our American energy back on track in unison.
Folks, you have a real opportunity here because Derek is running against a Republican, perhaps a Republican in name only, who just voted for the extension of the FISA program, which means, as we know, warrantless searches of U.S. Citizens. She voted for billions more just the other day to fund the foreign war in Ukraine, yet nothing is done about our own dangerous southern border. She's a supporter of red flag laws, therefore an opponent of the Second Amendment. So here's an example of where you can make a real difference. I would urge you, let's put that up if we may. Derek, where can people go to send you a badly needed contribution? Because running for Congress is an extraordinarily expensive exercise. And I can guarantee you that Derek Evans does not have any big special interests or any wealthy billionaires bankrolling his campaign. He has to count on small and medium-sized donors like you and I and everybody out there listening to the Stone Zone. So, Derek, tell folks how they can help you.
Yeah, thank you. You can go to our website. It's evans4wv.com, evans4wv.com. And to your point, we've raised over $700,000 for this campaign with over 10,000 donors. Not a single dollar is from a PAC or a special interest group. It is 100% is from everyday Americans, the blue collar, the backbone of this country, who's chipping in 5, 10, 15, 20 bucks. That is why we're able to do this. And I tell everyone, this is not my campaign. It's truly not. This is a campaign of the American people. If you've ever, and I mean, if you've ever wanted to send a message to the deep state, here's your opportunity to do so. You can help elect a former January 6th political prisoner who's going to go to DC, kick in the front door, and expose the corruption.
All right. I'm afraid we have to leave it there, folks. This is one of the most important races in the country. I do not just hand out endorsements. I literally amassed by hundreds of candidates at all levels, Congress, the Senate, state legislature, county commission, for endorsements. Frankly, it dilutes it. I really only publicly endorse and support people who I really believe in. There's nothing in this for me. I'm not compensated in any way. I'm for Derek Evans because he is an outstanding American patriot. He has a unique opportunity to win a seat for the good guys, and he needs your help to do it. So one more time, Derek, tell us that email address so folks can send you a few bucks.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I want to say thank you so much for the endorsement and for believing in me, man. It really does mean a lot. And I will say this: it was definitely one of the most grueling endorsement processes there was, and I appreciate that. Actually, he's not lying when he says that he is very strict and takes it very serious, and I really appreciate that. You can go to our website. It's evans4wv.com, evans4wv.com. Go over, like I said, throw in 5, 10, 15 bucks and help us out. And doing so, send a message to the deep state that we're sick and tired of this. We have too many politicians in politics. We need more patriots involved in politics. And the way we get there is helping just get a few people in the door, and then I'll help bring some others along with us. So thank you guys so much.
All right, folks, there you have it. Derek Evans for Congress in West Virginia. Get on board. We're going to go to a quick commercial message, and then we'll be right back with Jim Pfaff from the Conservative Caucus.
Hi, neighbor. Pat Boone here. Today, I want to help you find some peace of mind concerning your money. Like it or not, we're all living in a financial war zone. That's right. We're watching our hard-earned dollars get crushed by inflation. In fact, recently inflation reached its highest level in 40 years. And on top of that, cash, which has always represented freedom and privacy, is more and more being replaced by a cashless system. That's right, powerful forces are definitely waging a war against cash. So I'm encouraging you to prepare before it's too late. Call or text the number on the screen for a free report, The Secret War on Cash from Swiss America. Discover how a few simple steps can protect your money as well as your privacy and your peace of mind. So call or text for your free report, The Secret War on Cash, and make sure to mention Pat Boone sent you.
Sounds rolling, all 3 cameras, we're good. Andy, speed.
Is there any regrets that you have in life? I should sit here and say, yeah, I got a lot of regrets. But when I look back on my life and I understand the lives that were lost, I mean, I'm sitting here with you. And I can tell my story.
Former National Security Advisor Lieutenant General Michael Cohen pleaded guilty today to lying to the FBI.
He was one of the most respected generals in the military.
He was, by definition, the most dangerous possible person for Donald Trump to hire.
Brilliant military career, serving 33 years.
Why was he being so elusive?
Mike Flynn told the truth and faced life in prison.
Welcome back, folks. I'm Roger Stone, and this is the Stone Zone. I'll remind you, you can see us every day, 4 o'clock Central Time, 5 o'clock Eastern Time at patriot.tv. Or if you miss that, you can see us again at 8 o'clock Eastern at rumble.com/Roger Stone. So multiple places for you to watch the Stone Zone. Urge you to sign up at patriot.tv, where we are presenting some of the most dynamic and important, vital, conservative, and alternative programming anywhere on the internet. So check out patriot.tv. Joining us now to talk some more politics is Jim Pfaff. He's the president of the Conservative Caucus, and he joins us in the Stone Zone now.
Thanks for having me, Roger. Glad to be here.
Wow, the Conservative Caucus. This takes me all the way back to Howard Phillips. This is a little known fact, but in the Nixon administration in 1972, after the re-election, Don Rumsfeld was moved from the Office of Economic Opportunity over to the White House, and Howard Phillips, who had been active in Republican and conservative politics, a Harvard graduate, a true conservative, one of the founders of Young Americans for Freedom, was sent over to the Office of Economic Opportunity to try to get a handle on the left-wing activism that was being paid for by taxpayers. I went over there with him for a 6-month stint, and that's all I ever needed of government service. I never wanted to work for the government again. Then he went out, as you know, and founded the Conservative Caucus, one of America's strongest, most vibrant, and most active grassroots conservative organizations then and now. So, Jim, tell us what you are up to. What are your priorities in this, the final battle for the soul and future of America?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what Howard was all about, as you know so well. When I was a young man, first getting involved in politics, actually, I was involved in college in 1984 with the founding of an organization called Students for America, and Ralph Reed had started that organization. I was at a conference in Powhatan, Virginia, as one of the many people on college campuses that was going to get involved. So we had all of the rock stars in the conservative movement come there. Paul Weyrich, Morton Blackwell, who, by the way, I interned for Mort for a couple of weeks at that time. Howard Phillips was there too. Now, I never got to really know Howard, but I can tell you that as a young conservative, someone who believed in the Constitution and in America, Howard was to me a rock star. And anyone that that knows anything about him knows this man understood the Constitution. He was willing to fight tooth and nail for American freedom. He believed in this country and what we were about. So what we're going to do here, and when I came on board with this, I was determined that we want to keep all of the fantastic things that happened with the conservative caucus under his leadership, and keep that, because some of those basics of grassroots politics are still useful today, but then bring it into the 21st century as well, where we can utilize some of the new types of platforms that we have. My biggest frustration with the Republican movement, with the conservative movement, is so often we really suck at grassroots politics, which is not, we're about to have an election, let's have a bunch of people go to doors and knock on them and tell them to do whatever. That sounds great. That's not grassroots politics. Grassroots politics is about identifying who your voters are and then actually taking steps to make sure that every one of them come out to the polls. So we're going to transform grassroots politics in America, because Republicans and conservatives, frankly, there's some good efforts, but most of them really suck at it. So we're going to change that.
Look, I think that is a noble pursuit. I mean, the Republican National Committee literally raised tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to address the question of election integrity. It's becoming abundantly clear that under Chairwoman Ronna Romney McDaniel, no efforts whatsoever were made. So now the Republicans and the Trump campaign, unfortunately, must play catch-up ball. There are a number of legal and technical things that can be done to ensure that the next election is much freer, fairer, more transparent, and more honest. Interestingly enough, there was no effort to go into the state legislatures where the Democrats changed the laws using COVID-19 as their rationale back to the way the election laws were previously. Therefore, you still have mail-in ballots, which even Bill Barr, as Attorney General, said on CNN with Wolf Blitzer was an open invitation for voter fraud. Then he subsequently said there was no voter fraud. All right, Bill Barr. You also have the issue of drop boxes, which is only, I believe, been amended in Wisconsin. But the laws, by and large, are the same in Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, the key states where this election is going to be decided. Now, in all fairness, in Pennsylvania, there was an honest legal effort to do away with mail-in ballots. Mail-in voting is clearly unconstitutional. But the Republican National Committee didn't do that. Local conservative activists had to raise the money for that legal challenge. It was successful in the lower courts. It was upheld in the middle courts, only to be overturned. In other words, mail-in voting was restored by Pennsylvania's extremely liberal and left-wing activist Supreme Court. And therefore, as a hard-bitten veteran of American politics, I have to wonder whether, as long as there are paper ballots in the hands of the Philadelphia Democratic machine, I wonder whether we can ever have a free, fair, and honest election in the Keystone State. Your thoughts, Jim?
Well, yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Listen, we have to understand how elections actually work. You know this very well. I mean, it's one of the great things about your history and your expertise. But those of us who have been fighting in this know that the way elections work is that they are run by the people, not even really by the government at all. Like the secretaries of state as well in Pennsylvania is a good example of it, are really trying to twist the outcome of elections utilizing their political power. The purpose of a secretary of state or whatever the election entity is in that state does is to make sure that the people running the elections, which are the volunteers, that they know how to handle it and that they are free to monitor what's going on. I was disturbed in 2020 when I saw in Detroit, Michigan, in their main vote counting area, that all the Republicans were kicked out from watching those votes. That kind of thing cannot happen. You secure an election through the volunteer efforts of the people who run them, because this country is of the people. It's not of the government entities. But we've seen a real assault on that security for understanding that our elections are good, really taking place in recent years. And by the way, as it comes to Pennsylvania, the way that they changed their laws in 2020, and it mostly maintains itself to this day, was by a court order of their state Supreme Court in violation of Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 of the Constitution, where the legislatures set how the electors are chosen. So we've got a lot of battles like this to fight, and it takes a large grassroots effort to do that. And then it takes the heft of an organization to put light on these things and make sure that we don't keep going down this path. We have a serious concern in 2024 about where this is going to go because of things like you said. And so our goal is to go out there and stop it, while we're also putting together a massive campaign to support Donald Trump to get reelected.
All right, so we have about 3 minutes. Troy, do you have a final question for our friend Jim Pfaff with the Conservative Caucus?
Absolutely. It's my observation that the Democrats are much better at playing the getting out the vote campaign than we are, and you pointed that out. One of the instances in this is that the Democrats have a meeting that's supposed to be for gay voters that they're trying to reach. They make it a gay LGBTQ event, but not a Democrat event. They do a women's event, but they don't make it a Democrat women's event. And I don't see this on the Republican side. How do you feel about that? And do you think that there could be stronger outreach on the lower levels of the Republicans to try to reach people who aren't necessarily already Republicans?
Well, this is what Democrats do really well. Actually, and Roger, you're probably familiar with the book. There's a now famous book in political circles called The Blueprint. It was written about Colorado and the efforts of Democrats to take that over. I actually ran a campaign that defeated The Blueprint in Colorado. I ran the marriage amendment effort in 2006. I was working for Focus on the Family at the time. We did the things that you're talking about to get voters out. We identified where they were, and we put together a grassroots team of hundreds of people to win that. That's how you win it. But the guy I opposed there, I actually happened to know him, and we respect one another because I kicked his butt that year. He's the guy that designed the very thing that you're describing. They don't go out and talk about party. They talk about issues. They talk to people about where they're at. Another area where Republicans really suck is outreach into the Latin American community, Hispanics and so forth. And in fact, you recently, Roger, had my very good friend Alan Dos Santos on your show. I've talked to him about this and others as well. Like, why are we not reaching out well in this communities? People just don't do it, and they crave to hear what matters to them. Real politics gets that done at that level without always having to talk about party or whatever. We talk about issues and principles and concepts.
Very, very well put. All right, we're going to have to move towards the exit. I want to thank Jim Pfaff from the Conservative Caucus. Jim, if folks want to sign up with the Conservative Caucus, where can they go? They can go to theconservativecaucus.org. And if they'd like to contribute to what we're doing, theconservativecaucus.org/donate. So get on board. We're building a grassroots network, and we've got a grassroots portal there that people can sign up to and get involved. Great. Many thanks. I want to thank Jim Pfaff for joining us today in the Stone Zone. All right, folks, we're at the end of the trail. I do want to take one moment to remind you that we are sponsored and brought to you by the great folks at MyPillow.com. Now, Mike Lindell is like we are. He's under attack, multiple lawsuits from big corrupt voting machine companies, and that's expensive. So he needs your support. We need your support, but more importantly, you need the great products at MyPillow.com. So, folks, yes, I'm asking you fervently, please go to MyPillow.com, and when you do, use promo code STONE. Promo code STONE. Now, there's a lot of great products there. There are, of course, my all-time favorites: the dog beds, the pet blankets, the all-season slippers, the famous extraordinarily absorbent bath towels, the legendary bed sheets, many great products, all there please use promo code STONE. God will bless you for it. In the meantime, I'm Roger Stone. On behalf of my sidekick here, the Ed McMahon of the StoneZone, Troy Smith, we thank you and say God bless you, Godspeed, and we'll see you tomorrow.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone. Where's Roger Stone?
The StoneZone is available in podcast form everywhere you can get podcasts. You can subscribe on your favorite app at stonezone.com/podcast.